The planet Vyrath once shone like a jewel in the dark sea of stars. Its cities were tall, silver, and glowing with soft blue light. The people of Vyrath were known across the galaxy for their beauty and grace. But that was long ago. Now the capital city was half broken, its towers scarred by fire and war. Smoke still rose from the ruins of old palaces. The once proud empire had fallen after decades of battles with outsiders. And in the center of this wounded world sat Queen Serath, ruler of the Vyrathian people, and the one they called the Shattered Crown. Her throne room was silent, heavy with cold air. Serath sat tall, her silver mask covering half her face. Beneath that mask were deep scars, reminders of the day she had led her armies into the firestorm that saved her planet, but destroyed her beauty. She no longer called herself beautiful. Her people whispered that their queen was strong but broken. She heard them but never answered. To her, beauty was gone. That morning her advisor entered the hall and bowed low. "Your Majesty, the human delegation has arrived. They wish to meet you to discuss the rebuilding treaty." Serath raised her head. "Humans," she murmured. "Deathworlders, they call themselves. They survive where others die." "Yes, my queen," said the advisor. "Their leader is called Commander Elias Ward. He asks for audience." "Bring him," she said, her voice calm but cold. The tall metal doors opened, and 5 humans stepped inside. Their uniforms were dark blue, marked with the symbol of the United Earth Fleet. They bowed, but Serath only watched in silence. Elias Ward, the man in front, looked around the grand hall. His eyes didn't stop at the broken columns or the blackened walls. They found the queen on her throne, a figure of strength and sadness, half hidden behind a silver mask and royal cloak. When his eyes met hers, he bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady and respectful. "It is an honor to meet the one who defended an entire world." Serath tilted her head. "You speak kindly, Commander, but you waste words. I fought because no one else would." Elias smiled softly. "That makes you more beautiful than any crown." The hall fell quiet. The alien guard shifted nervously, unsure if the human had spoken too boldly. But Serath didn't shout. She stared at him for a long time, searching his face. No mockery, no pity. Just truth. Her lips curved slightly, though her voice was still sharp. "Why call me gorgeous, human? I am ugly. You do not need to flatter me for politics." Elias shook his head. "I don't flatter. I speak what I see. You carry scars that tell a story. To me, that's beautiful." A soft gasp ran through the chamber. No one had dared say such words to the queen in years. After the humans were dismissed, Serath stayed alone in the throne room. Her fingers brushed the edge of her silver mask. The echo of the human's words stayed in her mind. "Beautiful," she whispered. The word sounded strange now. Once it had followed her everywhere, in poems, songs, and gifts. But after the fire, after the pain, everyone stopped saying it. She looked at her reflection in a cracked mirror. The mask covered the left side of her face, but she remembered what lay beneath. Dark burns, jagged scars, skin that once shone like silver, now rough and dull. She turned away. "Humans," she said to herself. "They do not understand." But part of her wondered, what if he really meant it? 2 days later, Serath attended the first rebuilding meeting. The humans and the Vyrathian Council sat together in the old war room. Plans were spread across the table, schematics for power grids, factories and farms. Elias was there again, sleeves rolled up, explaining how human fusion generators could stabilize the city's failing systems. He spoke clearly, with passion and confidence. He didn't act like a visitor. He acted like someone who wanted to help. Serath noticed how even her own engineers listened closely to him. His hands were steady when he worked on the holographic models, his movements simple and precise. He didn't demand respect, but people gave it to him. When the council broke for rest, Serath approached him. "You work hard for a world not your own," she said. Elias smiled again. "I've seen what war does to a planet. If I can stop another one from dying, it's worth the effort." "You speak as if you understand our pain," she said. He looked at her mask, not with fear, but curiosity. "Pain looks the same everywhere, Your Majesty. It just wears different faces." Something in his tone made her pause. There was no judgment, only truth. That night, Serath walked through the ruined gardens of her palace. The stars above were dim, hidden behind clouds of dust. She had rebuilt this world with iron, not hope. But now she thought about the strange human who didn't see her as broken. For years she had ruled with distance. No one dared to look too long at her face or speak of her scars. But Elias Ward did both and smiled. It made her uneasy, and yet curious. As she passed the fountain, she found one of her younger guards whispering to another. "Did you see the human commander?" the guard said. He looked at the queen like she was still beautiful. Sarath froze behind the wall, listening. The other guard laughed softly. "Humans are strange. Maybe he doesn't see like we do." "Or maybe," said the first, "he just sees what we've forgotten." Their words stayed in her heart long after they left. Days passed, and the human team worked tirelessly to repair the power grid. Sarath often watched from the palace balcony. She saw Elias lifting heavy metal panels with his bare hands, directing both human and Virathian workers. He was different from most diplomats she'd met. He didn't hide behind words, he acted. Once, during a sandstorm, she saw him outside, helping a child who had lost his family during the war. He carried the boy on his back through the dust, never stopping until they reached safety. Later, she asked him about it. "You risked your life for one child," she said. "Why?" He wiped dust from his face and smiled faintly. "Because one life still matters. Always." That answer silenced her. The queen began to appear more often near the rebuilding sites. She told herself it was for duty, to inspect progress. But her eyes often followed the same human figure moving among the workers. One afternoon, Elias caught her watching. He approached and bowed. "Do I pass inspection, Your Majesty?" Sarath blinked, caught off guard. "You are efficient," he laughed lightly. "I'll take that as a compliment." She frowned, though a hint of a smile touched her lips. "You humans speak so freely. Don't you fear saying the wrong thing to a ruler?" Elias looked at her gently. "If truth is the wrong thing, then maybe the world needs more mistakes." She didn't answer, but the corners of her eyes softened. That evening, alone in her chamber, Sarath removed her mask once more. She stared into the mirror again. The scars were still there, deep and sharp, but something inside her felt different. She remembered the human's smile. Not mocking, not forced, just calm and real. For the first time in many years, she didn't feel like turning away from her reflection. She whispered, "Why call me gorgeous?" And then stopped. The rest of the sentence faded in her throat. Out, the great hall of Vyrath was quiet again. The human delegation had completed their treaty and were preparing to leave the next morning. For Queen Sarath, it should have been a relief, but instead she felt an unexpected heaviness. She stood at her balcony watching the humans pack their equipment near the palace gates. Among them, she saw Commander Elias Ward, speaking with the engineers, his face lit by the soft golden glow of Vyrath's twin suns. He looked like he belonged here, not as a visitor, but as someone who cared. Her advisor approached silently. "The humans depart soon, my queen. The treaty is complete. You may rest easy now." Sarath's eyes stayed on Elias. "All of them are leaving?" The advisor nodded. "Yes, Majesty. Except one." Her head turned slightly. "One?" "Yes," he said. Commander Ward requested to stay behind. "He said the generators in the lower city still need work." Sarath frowned. "He would remain on a dying world for a machine?" "He said," the advisor replied slowly, "that a machine is nothing without the people who need it." For a long time, Sarath said nothing. Her gaze returned to the human below. The wind carried his laughter faintly upward, mixed with the sounds of tools and sparks. It was strange to her, a sound of life amid ruins. The next day, the Earthship departed, leaving Elias and a few of his crew behind. The queen allowed them to stay within the city, though she never said why. She told herself it was practical. Humans were skilled engineers and her world needed power. But deep down, she knew there was another reason. She wanted to understand him. Elias began working with the royal engineers to restore the main power core that fed the entire capital. It was old, cracked, and unstable, much like the city itself. Most Virathians were afraid to go near it. When Sarath visited the site, she saw humans and aliens working side by side. Sparks flew, metal clanged, and amidst all the noise stood Elias. His sleeves rolled up, hands dirty, eyes bright with purpose. The queen stepped closer. "You are no diplomat, are you, Commander?" she said. He looked up, surprised but not nervous. "No, Your Majesty. I'm an engineer who's good with stubborn machines. Then why do you lead your people? She asked. He smiled lightly. Because stubborn machines and stubborn people are not so different. You just need patience. Sarath studied him. There was no pride in his tone, no arrogance, just truth. And what of rulers who are stubborn? She asked. He met her gaze. They're the hardest to fix, but usually the strongest. For a moment, Sarath forgot to breathe. The workers around them bowed and looked away, unsure if they should laugh or fear. But the queen only turned and walked off, saying, Then fix my city, human. Elias bowed. Yes, your majesty. Days passed. The human and alien teams worked endlessly to restore the power network. The queen often visited, claiming she came to check progress, though her guards noticed she always arrived when Elias was present. He worked with quiet focus, never complaining, even when systems failed or storms rolled over the city. Once a massive sandstorm swept across the ruins. The alien engineers panicked, seeking cover, but Elias stood firm, helping others to safety first. When the storm passed, Sarath found him sitting beside a broken energy node, his face streaked with dust. You could have died, she said sternly. He looked up and grinned. Wouldn't be the first time something tried to kill me, your majesty. Besides, I still have work to do. You are reckless, she said. Maybe, he replied, but I don't stop until the light returns. She wanted to argue, but his words stopped her. There was something in him, a quiet fire she could not name. That evening, in the lower district, an explosion shook the ground. The old generator had malfunctioned. People screamed as energy sparks flew through the air. Sarath was informed within minutes. Without hesitation, she left the palace and rode to the site herself. When she arrived, she saw smoke rising, and Elias running into the flames. Commander, she shouted, but he didn't stop. A small child was trapped behind fallen metal beams. Elias pushed through, his uniform burning in spots. With sheer strength, he lifted the debris and pulled the child out, shielding him from another burst of sparks. When it was over, both were covered in soot. The queen rushed to them, ignoring her guard's warnings. She knelt beside Elias, who was coughing and smiling faintly. You fool, she said quietly. You could have burned alive. He looked at her through the haze and smiled again, that same calm, gentle smile that always unsettled her. Still ugly now, your majesty? He whispered jokingly, his voice weak. Sarath froze. For a moment she didn't understand. Then she realized he was teasing her words from before. Why call me gorgeous? Her heart did something strange. It ached, but not from pain. Rest, human, she said softly. That is an order. He nodded, still smiling, before fainting in her arms. For 3 days, Elias remained under care in the palace infirmary. The queen visited often, though she told no one. She sat quietly beside his bed, watching the human breathe. His arm was bandaged, his face scratched, yet his expression in sleep was peaceful. One night she spoke aloud, though he could not hear. You saved my people again, she said softly. You risked everything. For a child not your own. Why? She looked down at his resting face. Humans are strange. You see beauty in pain and strength in weakness. You make no sense. She stood up to leave, but then his voice, faint, hoarse, stopped her. You talk too much when you think no one listens. Sarath turned sharply. His eyes were half open, his smile lazy. You were awake? She asked. Maybe, he murmured. Maybe I just like the sound of your voice. She frowned, but her cheeks warmed. Rest, Commander. You are still injured. He nodded. Yes, your majesty. Then he added softly, Thank you for being here. Sarath hesitated, then walked away quickly before her guards could see her face. After his recovery, Elias returned to work, as if nothing had happened. The people of Vyrath began to notice him, the human who stayed behind when others left, who worked without fear or rest. Children followed him, calling him the Earth Builder. Even some nobles grudgingly respected him. And the queen, she changed. She began to smile more, even if faintly. Her orders were still strict, but her tone grew softer. She walked among her people again, unafraid of being seen. And whenever Elias passed by, her eyes followed him without her knowing. One evening, during a quiet meal with her council, an elder whispered, The queen seems lighter these days. Another nodded. Perhaps the human's madness is contagious. Sarath heard them but did not react. She only thought of Elias's words, I don't see the scars. I see the strength. That night she removed her mask before the mirror once again. The scars were still there, deep and cruel, but they no longer looked as ugly as before. Maybe it was the light. Or maybe it was something else. A week later, Elias was invited to dine with the queen, a rare honor for any outsider. The palace servants whispered in excitement, and the alien ministers looked uncomfortable. When he entered, Sarath was already waiting. She dismissed the guards and waved for him to sit. The meal was simple, fruit from the southern forests and human bread from their supplies. They ate in silence for a while. Finally, she said, "You stayed when you could have left." "Why?" Elias looked up, meeting her eyes without hesitation. "Because I wanted to finish what I started." "Rebuilding?" she asked. He smiled. "No. Helping a world remember it can shine again." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then quietly she whispered, "You are strange, human." He chuckled. "I get that a lot." Sarath found herself smiling too, a real smile, not the cold one she wore before. For the first time in years, her laughter filled the hall. Outside, the city of Vyrath Prime began to heal. The lights that had long been dark now glowed again, powered by the rebuilt energy grid. Factories hummed softly and the people walked with new hope. Much of that hope came from a single human, Commander Elias Ward, and the alien queen who had once been known only as the Shattered Crown. Together, they had done what no one thought possible, brought life back to a dying world. But light always draws shadows, and not everyone in Vyrath was pleased. Inside the royal palace, whispers spread like poison through marble halls. "The queen grows soft," said one minister. "She walks with the human too often," said another. "He clouds her judgment." "The humans will soon control us," muttered a third. At first, these were only quiet words behind closed doors, but soon they reached the council chamber, and then they reached Queen Sarath herself. She stood at the tall window of her throne room, listening as her old advisor spoke carefully. "Majesty, there are rumors. The nobles say you trust the human too much." Sarath's golden eyes hardened. "Rumors are the breath of cowards." "Let them talk," the advisor hesitated. "It is not only talk. Some believe he influences your decisions." "Daddy, enough," Sarath said sharply. "Commander Ward has done more for Vyrath than any of them. Let them whisper." "I will not." The advisor bowed deeply and left, but his face showed worry. When the doors closed, Sarath sighed quietly. She looked down at the city glowing in the night. In the reflection of the glass, she saw her maskless face, the scars she had once hated now softened by faint candlelight. Her thoughts drifted to Elias. He was still working late in the repair district, guiding a group of young Varathian engineers. He was patient with them, never angry when they made mistakes. He laughed easily, and his laughter carried far. The workers said the queen herself smiled more when he was near. Maybe they were right. That night, Sarath went to visit the work site without warning. Her guards protested, but she ignored them. She wanted to see with her own eyes what her people whispered about. When she arrived, she found Elias kneeling beside a broken control panel, explaining something to the workers. "This wire connects the main grid," he said, pointing. "You fix this, the power stays stable. You break it, boom, no lights for days." The workers laughed, and Elias smiled with them. When he noticed the queen approaching, he stood at once and bowed. "Your Majesty, you visit the lower district again?" "I wish to see your progress," she said. "I see you are also a teacher now." He chuckled. "They teach me too. They're better at handling the heat levels than I am." She walked closer. "You speak as if you belong here." He looked around the half-built chamber. "Maybe I do. The people of Vyrath are good at surviving. So are we humans." "Feels familiar." The queen watched him quietly. For a long moment there was only the sound of sparks and humming machines. "Elias," she said softly, "my court says I have changed because of you." He blinked, surprised. "Changed? How so?" "They say I smile," she said. He smiled too. "Then I'm guilty." Sarath tilted her head. "And what do you say?" "Have I changed?" He thought for a moment. "You've always been strong, but now you let people see it." His words made her chest feel warm. "You speak like you know me." "I'm learning," he said simply. But far away in the dark corners of the palace, plans were being made. The council of nobles gathered in secret. They feared that the queen's affection for the human would destroy their traditions. They said humans were dangerous, unpredictable, too different. A shadowed figure spoke from the end of the table. "The queen forgets her duty," The human blinds her. He must be removed? Removed? Another asked nervously. Yes, the voice hissed, quietly. So the queen will not suffer shame. We will call it an accident. And so the plot began. The next day, Elias received a message from the royal engineers. They needed him to inspect a malfunction deep below the palace, in the old tunnels that powered the defense systems. Without question, he went. The tunnels were dark and filled with dust. Only a few dim lights flickered along the metal walls. He crouched near a damaged power relay, scanning the area, but something felt wrong. His human instincts, the same ones that had saved him through many battles, whispered danger. The air smelled strange, too clean for a place unused for years. Then he saw it. A small, blinking device hidden beneath the cables. A bomb. Before he could react, the door above sealed shut. At that same moment in the throne room, Queen Sarath felt a sudden tremor beneath her feet. A muffled explosion followed, deep and heavy, shaking the palace foundation. Report, she shouted. Her guards rushed in, panicked. An energy surge, Majesty. It came from the lower tunnels. Sarath's heart dropped. Elias, without waiting for her advisors, she ran toward the nearest lift. Her guards followed, shouting for her to stop, but she ignored them. The thought that the human might be hurt filled her with fear stronger than she had ever known. When the lift opened, the tunnels were full of smoke. Sparks rained from broken pipes. Elias, she called, her voice echoing through the dark. A faint cough answered. She rushed forward and found him pinned under a fallen beam, his arm bleeding but still alive. You shouldn't be here, he said weakly. Be silent, she ordered, kneeling beside him. She lifted the beam with all her strength, her muscles shaking. When it finally moved, she helped him sit up. His face was pale but calm. Someone planted it, he said. Not an accident. Sarath's eyes burned with fury. Who would dare? He looked at her sadly. Someone afraid to lose you, she froze. Lose me? To the truth, he said softly. You're not broken, Sarath. You're changing and they can't stand it. For the first time, he spoke her name without title. She didn't stop him. When they returned to the palace, Sarath ordered an immediate investigation. Her soldiers arrested several council members before sunrise. The evidence was clear. They had plotted to kill the human, but when the queen confronted them, they only bowed mockingly. You risk everything for a death worlder, one said. You shame your throne. Sarath's eyes flashed with cold fire. You shame Vyrath by fearing kindness. She turned to her guards. Take them away. As the traitors were dragged out, silence filled the hall. Later that night, Sarath visited Elias's chamber. His wounds were wrapped, and though he was tired, he still smiled when she entered. Your Majesty, he greeted softly. I hear you saved me again. She stood beside his bed. You would not need saving if you stopped risking your life. He laughed lightly. Then who would make you angry? Her lips curved slightly. You think I'm angry? He looked into her eyes. No, I think you're scared. She didn't answer. For a long time they just looked at each other. Finally, she said quietly, They tried to take you from me. I do not understand why that frightens me so much. He smiled faintly. Maybe because you finally let someone in. Her gaze softened. And what of you, human? Why do you stay when my world only brings danger? Elias leaned back, still smiling. Because some things are worth the danger. The queen turned away quickly, hiding the warmth on her face. But her heart was beating fast. That night, as the stars shone over Vyrath, the queen stood at her balcony once again. The city lights flickered below, alive and bright. She touched her scars gently and whispered, He almost died because of me. But then she remembered his words. Not an accident. Now she knew. This was more than politics or power. Someone had wanted to tear apart what she had begun to build. Something fragile, something new. She clenched her fist. They will not win. Behind her, the door opened softly. Elias stood there, wrapped in bandages, smiling weakly. You're still awake, he said. Sarath turned, surprised. You should be resting. He shrugged. Can't sleep. Thought I'd check if the Queen of Vyrath still thinks she's ugly. Her breath caught. Then slowly she smiled. Perhaps not as much. He smiled back, his eyes gentle. Good. And for a brief, quiet moment, the scars, the pain, the war, all faded away. Only two souls remained, standing together beneath the stars. The palace of Vyrath Prime was alive with tension. News of the attempted sabotage had spread across the city. Nobles whispered that the queen had grown weak, allowing a human to influence her. Some ministers urged her to remove Elias, saying his presence threatened tradition and control. But Queen Serath no longer feared their whispers. She had seen his courage, his strength, and his unwavering commitment to her people, and now she knew that what the council feared most was not the human himself. It was the truth he had shown them, that kindness and bravery could change the world. The council called a meeting. Serath entered the chamber without her mask, revealing her scarred face for the first time in public. The nobles gasped. Her burns, her jagged skin, her battle marks, all of it was visible. A minister hissed, "She dares show herself? The shattered crown is no queen anymore. She is broken." Serath's golden eyes flashed with determination. "I am not broken. Every scar tells a story of survival, of defending my people. You will respect that or leave my presence." The chamber fell silent. Elias stood beside her, calm and strong, his presence steady like a pillar. "These scars are proof of your strength," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "You fought for every life here. To call that ugly is a lie." Murmurs rippled through the council. Some bowed their heads in shame. Others stared, uncertain how to respond. The queen turned to the council and said softly, "If strength is ugly, then let the weak tremble in shame." After the meeting, Serath walked through the palace corridors with Elias at her side. They passed soldiers and workers who bowed, whispering their respect. Some still stared at the human warily, unsure why a stranger from Earth could remain here alive and unafraid. Serath finally asked, "Do you ever tire of this human? Saving my people, defending my throne?" Elias shook his head. "No, this is my duty now. Not because I must, but because I choose to." "Even if others think it wrong?" she asked. "Even then," he replied. "Sometimes doing right looks wrong to those who are afraid." The queen's heart beat faster. She had felt that fear in her own people, in herself, and yet he faced it without flinching. The following weeks were filled with reconstruction and teaching. Elias instructed engineers in human methods, helped soldiers understand new defense systems, and even guided children in basic mechanics. Everywhere he went, he encouraged others, laughed with them, and never asked for reward. The queen watched him from her balcony, unnoticed. His actions were simple, but each small gesture made her see her world differently. People could survive. People could build. People could love. One afternoon, she saw him lift a large generator component by himself, straining but smiling. She hurried down to help, but he waved her off. "I've got this," he said, his eyes bright. "We need strength to survive, Your Majesty, and courage to grow." Serath's chest swelled. She realized that for the first time, she didn't feel the weight of her scars. Elias had shown her that strength could shine even in broken things. But peace was fragile. Some council members refused to accept a human as a hero. They plotted to turn the people against him, spreading lies about hidden motives. One evening, a report came to the queen. A minor faction intended to sabotage the rebuilt defenses and blame the human. Serath's hands clenched into fists. She would not let anyone hurt him, or allow fear to guide her people. Elias noticed her tension. "What is it, Your Majesty?" She turned to him. "They plan another attack. Someone wants to harm you." He frowned but did not panic. "Then we stop them together," she nodded. "Yes, together." The next day, the queen and Elias inspected the city defenses. Automated drones hummed softly, energy fields glimmered, and soldiers moved with precision. But Elias knew vigilance could not be idle. He paused before the queen and said quietly, "You do not need to hide behind your mask anymore." Serath looked at him, surprised. You do not fear my scars?" "No," he said firmly. "They do not scare me. They are part of your story, and I respect that story. Do you?" For a long time, Serath did not answer. Then she whispered, I think I'm learning to respect it." Elias's smile was gentle. "Good, because strength is always beautiful, no matter the shape it takes." Their calm inspection was interrupted by a sudden alarm. A group of conspirators had tried to breach the southern energy station. Elias and Serath rushed to the scene. arriving just as the saboteurs attempted to tamper with the systems. Without hesitation, Elias acted. Using quick thinking and human technology, he deactivated the devices and restrained the attackers. Sarath moved with him, her presence commanding, ensuring the conspirators could not escape. When the guards took the attackers away, Sarath turned to Elias. "You saved this world again. Why do you risk so much for me?" Elias shrugged, brushing dust from his uniform. "Because some things are worth the risk. You, your people, this world, all of it." The Queen's chest ached. His words were simple, yet carried more truth than any council speech she had ever heard. That night, the palace held a council meeting. But Sarath did not appear to argue or demand obedience. Instead, she removed her mask completely. Her scars glimmered in the candlelight, deep and jagged, but her eyes shone brighter than ever. She addressed the council calmly. "I am your queen. My scars do not make me weak, and I will not allow fear to rule this city." Elias stood beside her. "Your Majesty speaks the truth. Strength is not only in appearances. It is in courage, in action, in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That is beauty." The council fell silent. Some bowed their heads. Others looked at each other, unsure how to respond. But none dared speak against her. Sarath turned away from them and walked to Elias. For the first time, she saw him not as a visitor or an outsider, but as a companion, someone who understood what it meant to fight and survive, to carry responsibility without pride, to see beyond appearances. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Perhaps she realized this was what people called hope. In the days that followed, Sarath and Elias worked together to rebuild the city in the hearts of its people. Children followed him wherever he went, calling him Earth Hero. Citizens marveled at his calm strength, his laughter, and the way he treated everyone equally. Sarath's people began to smile more, walk taller, and even laugh again. The Queen's own smile grew brighter with every passing day. Unafraid of her reflection, unafraid of the world's judgment. One evening, she and Elias stood together on the palace balcony, looking out over the city. Lights glimmered in every street and the hum of machines filled the night. "You have changed this city," she said softly. "No," he replied. "You have. I only helped you see it." Her golden eyes softened. "You make it hard for me to remember my scars are ugly." Elias smiled, that same calm smile that had drawn her curiosity from the beginning. "Because they are not ugly. They are proof that you survived. That is something to admire, not hide." For the first time, Sarath felt a peace she had not known in years. The fear, the pain, the whispers, and all faded for a moment. Only the human beside her, steady and kind, remained real, and in that moment she understood something new. Beauty is not in perfection. The city of Vyrath Prime glowed brighter than ever before. Rebuilt power grids, repaired factories, and bustling streets marked a new era. Citizens walked with purpose, their steps lighter than they had been for decades. At the center of this revival stood Queen Sarath, no longer hiding behind her mask, and beside her, Commander Elias Ward, the human who had stayed when all others had left. Together they had faced threats, sabotage, and whispers of rebellion. Yet here they were, stronger and closer than anyone had expected. The day began like any other, with Sarath inspecting the new energy hub in the southern district. The once scorched fields were now filled with humming machines and workers repairing the city's outer systems. Elias stood beside her, holding blueprints in one hand and guiding workers with the other. His calm presence inspired confidence. His patience shaped not only the repairs but the hearts of those around him. Sarath studied him for a moment. "You have changed this world more than I ever imagined," she said softly. He looked at her with a gentle smile. "No, Your Majesty. You changed it. I only followed your example." She shook her head, surprised by his humility. "You inspire more than you know, human. Even my people see it." He laughed lightly. "Then I'm glad. That is all I hope for." That afternoon, a group of Vyrathian children approached them. They carried small makeshift gifts, a carved wooden figure, a bouquet of alien flowers, and one tiny model of a starship. "Commander Ward," they shouted. "We made these for you." Elias knelt to their level, smiling widely. "These are amazing. Thank you, little engineers." Sarath watched quietly, a soft smile on her face. She realized that his actions, small gestures, kindness, patience, had left a mark stronger than any battle or speech. The people admired him not because of rank or fear, but because of who he was. The children ran off, leaving Elias and Serath alone. He looked at her and said quietly, "You see, strength and kindness are not separate. They grow together." Serath's chest felt warm. She nodded slowly, understanding what he meant. The peace of the afternoon was broken by a sudden alarm. A communication officer rushed to them. "Your Majesty, human! There is a fleet approaching from the northern quadrant. Unknown ships." Serath and Elias exchanged a glance. The rebuilt city and the human-made defenses had not gone unnoticed. Someone wanted to test their strength. "Prepare the defense systems," Serath commanded. Her voice was calm but firm. "Elias, I need you at the control center." He nodded. "Understood, Your Majesty. Let's show them what Vyrath can do." Inside the control center, Elias worked swiftly, rerouting energy fields and activating automated drones. Serath coordinated the city's forces, her orders precise and decisive. For the first time, her people saw her scars as a symbol of power, not weakness. The enemy fleet was small but fast. They underestimated Vyrath's recovery, thinking the city still fragile. But with human strategy and alien courage combined, they were met with resistance they had not expected. Elias moved calmly among the consoles. "Redirect power to the southern shield. Increase drone patrols. Focus on the northern approach." Serath's voice cut through the room. "I want every street cleared and civilians protected. No one left behind." The battle was brief but intense. The enemy retreated, unable to breach the city's defenses. When it ended, silence fell over Vyrath Prime. Outside, Serath and Elias walked through the city. People cheered, not only for the victory but for the safety and leadership they had witnessed. Citizens crowded the streets, waving and calling their thanks. Serath stopped and looked at Elias. "You saved my city again." He shrugged, smiling faintly. "We saved it together." "You do not fear danger," she said, awe in her voice. "Fear is a tool," he replied. "It tells you to be careful. But courage is the choice to act anyway." Her eyes softened. She studied the man beside her, realizing he had changed not only her world but her heart. That evening, Serath led Elias to the palace balcony. The city below glowed like a constellation. The rebuilt tower shimmered in the soft light, a promise of life and strength. "You came here as a stranger," she said softly. "But you stayed. You risked your life again and again, and yet you smile. Always." Elias turned to her, calm and gentle. "Because smiles are stronger than fear, Your Majesty. They remind people there is hope even after darkness." She nodded. Her eyes traced the scars along her cheek. "I thought my face would never carry hope again. That my scars would only remind me of loss and pain." Elias reached out, placing a hand lightly on hers. "Scars are proof that you survived. They are beautiful because they are yours. You are beautiful because of your strength." Serath's breath caught. She looked at him, really looked. For the first time in years, she felt no shame. Only clarity, only warmth. Weeks passed and peace settled over Vyrath Prime. The people flourished, rebuilding homes, schools, and marketplaces. Trade resumed with neighboring planets, and the city's lights burned brighter than they had in decades. And all the while, Elias remained at Serath's side. He taught, helped, and guided. But more than that, he stayed. A constant presence, a symbol that courage and kindness could coexist. Serath, for her part, allowed herself to feel something new. She laughed freely, walked unmasked, and even joined Elias in simple moments of life, teaching children, walking the streets and repairing small machines alongside him. One evening, they stood alone at the edge of the palace gardens. The twin moons reflected in the fountain water, and a gentle wind carried the scent of alien flowers. Serath spoke quietly. "I never expected a human to teach me something I had forgotten, that strength can be gentle, that courage can be kind." Elias smiled softly. "Humans are full of lessons, but you have shown me that beauty is not perfection. It is survival, action, and hope." For a long moment they stood silently. Then Serath took a deep breath. "And my scars?" she asked. "They are the story of you," he replied gently. "And your story is gorgeous," the queen's heart fluttered. She laughed softly, a sound like music across the silent palace. "Gorgeous. Perhaps I'm not as ugly as I believed." Elias smiled, that quiet, calm smile that had begun this change long ago. "You never were." Days turned to weeks, and Vyrath's revival was complete. The city thrived, its people grew strong, and the memory of war faded. Yet for Queen Serath, the most remarkable change was within herself. She had learned to embrace her scars, to see her strength as beauty, and to trust someone outside her world, a human, with her life and her heart. And for Elias, the greatest lesson was this: courage and kindness could change not only a world but a heart long closed to hope. The final night of Part 5 found them standing together on the balcony once more. The city below gleamed like a living jewel. The Queen looked at the man beside her, the human who had stayed when others left, the man whose quiet courage had healed a world. She touched his hand lightly. "You stayed. You risked everything, and yet—" "You smile." Elias took her hand fully, holding it gently, "because smiles are stronger than fear, and because I see the truth, that even broken things, even scarred faces can carry hope and light." Serath smiled. Her scars shimmered in the moonlight, no longer marks of shame but symbols of endurance, survival, and beauty. "I understand now," she whispered. "I see what you see, and—" "Thank you, Elias Ward." He smiled, calm and unwavering. "No thanks needed, Your Majesty. Just keep smiling. That is enough." And there, on the balcony of a world reborn, the scarred alien queen and the human who believed in her stood together. A quiet strength passed between them, one that promised a future built on courage, kindness, and hope. The city below thrived. The stars above shone brightly, and the smile of a single human had changed a world and a queen. Forever. The end.